Okay, so I kind of changed it a little bit. So now when you get close to it, there's a sound, which you probably can't hear very well, and some glitching effects. And I kind of made some panels that um, break up the re repetition of just the basic pixels. So that's what the effect looks like. And to do that, I have, how can I explain this? I started with this ground shader with these tiles, which have a parallax occlusion mapping. So the shader, the material is not too complex. I just have a few maps that I generated with Substance Designer. So with some tiles and, oops, some gradient fills, a couple of noises to have some roughness and all that. So I basically end up with a texture that looks like this, which has some various channels packed into the colors. And that's how I have this material. And I'm using the same parallax occlusion node for the walls, but in a very different way. So this is, let me put this side by side. Come on. How hard can this be? I basically took this material, this basic texture that I generated, and, oops, what did I just delete? I generated a gradient to represent the depth of the screen. So where it's white, it's basically the surface of the screen, and when it's black, it's pushed deep into the distance. And I'm using this and also taking the input texture and squishing it down. And the result of this is that when I have this set up and set the height ratio to 0, you can see that the texture is just projected onto the wall. There are these glitchy effects, which is just a couple of really ugly sine waves to generate some random displacement on the texture coordinates, on the UVs, but that's not important. So this is the squish texture that I output, and whenever I move the height ratio and push it into the wall, that's how I get the effect. As for the screen thing, I found a tutorial on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can find a link to it afterwards, where I basically use the pixel depth and do a little bit of math to it to get a value between black and white, depending on how far away I am from the screen. And I'm just using that to blend between the clean image, which is this one, and the pixel image, which is this one. And I'm generating this by, by multiplying the clean image by this picture over here, I believe, yeah. So I'm just distorting it a little bit to break it up at the edges, so that's what this does. Based on this texture that I also generated in Substance Designer. Right, come on. Right here, yeah, right here. So that's really just random tiles and some grayscale. And so I have this texture, and since it's red, green, and blue, which are the basic channels, and just black everywhere else, I can just multiply it. I can just multiply the output of my shader by this, and that just colors in the pixels where it needs to be colored in and keeps the rest black. And just by using a linear interpolate based on the distance from the camera, I get the effect.